Good evening, guys. I hope you're all well. Welcome back to the Amateur Footballer channel and welcome back to our weekly podcast called The Starting 11. Apologies if I seem a bit off this week. It's been a bit of a horror weekend for me as a Chelsea fan. Michelle gleaming with smiles as always. Today, as you can see, we've got the deadly trio again. Myself, Joe, say hello.
Oh, sorry, I was just doing like a little symbol. I don't know why I was doing that. Good evening, everyone.
And Michelle as well. How are you getting on?
Hi, I'm good. London is red, isn't it?
No, it's not.
Oh, dear.
Moving swiftly on to the first game of discussion. Man City 2, Fulham 1. I don't know if you guys watched the match, but a couple of actually dodgy sort of calls, I thought. The offside on Haaland for one. I understand his hand was offside, but he didn't score with his hand. Yeah. So I think there's a bit of controversy there. And also the penalty and red card on Cancelo. Did you guys watch it or see the highlights?
Yeah, I watched the extended highlights. I think the penalty and red card was the just about the right decision. I think the double jeopardy rule obviously comes in if there's no intent. So if he tries to play the ball there, then he doesn't get a red card because you can't give a penalty and a red card if they are attempting to make the ball. But I do think Cancelo gets stuck in between the two. He doesn't directly go for the ball and he doesn't sort of outright go for the man. And I think it's a bit subjective. So I think it's a bit of a silly decision because they know of the rule. I think if he goes for the ball there and he takes him out, he gets a yellow and a penalty. But he sort of does neither. He gets the wrong side and he body checks him. I think it's the right call. But I do understand it could go both ways. But I think it's, in the heat of the moment, his brain not working the way my brain just done. It's easy for me to say I'm in the kitchen on a chair. But you know, if I was defending, it might be different. But yeah, very, very silly defending.
That's interesting you said about silly defending because I think that's what significant mistakes he's made, right? Like that's quite a few. And I don't know whether it's a maturity thing or a mental thing, but he's definitely got that side to him that he needs to iron out. I'm not even sure if he's a massive loss actually with him being out for a couple of games. I'm not sure. I think he's made quite a few significant mistakes, which I'm a bit like, I don't know if it's going to be a loss to Man City. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think there definitely needs to be some kind of like mental stability with him. I think he just loses it at every point. Like you're just a bit like, well, you know, he's letting the team down a little bit because he almost cost them the game. Let's not lie.
Yeah. What do you think? You seem to have I might have read your facial reactions wrong there, Mish, but you seem to have a similar view of it.
I do think it was the right call, for being totally honest. But like you said, it's very subjective. But I think this is the whole thing about football, right? It is very subjective. It just depends on your angles, etc.
Do you get what I mean, though? If he goes for like a sliding challenge or goes for the ball, he gets yellowed there.
Yeah.
He gets stuck in no man's land, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I think that's what probably that cost him in the end, didn't it? Really, but. Yeah, as you said, I think it's one of those things that's so subjective. So on another day, another ref, he probably would have got a yellow. So I don't know. It's a tough one, isn't it? But annoyingly, obviously Haaland. I mean, if you have someone like that on the bench, there's always a chance. whether you're 10 men, 9 men, with that guy, there's always a chance. So yeah it was very annoying because obviously I was like, we could actually pull away and get further.
Well, these are the games where you're hoping they slip up, even if even if they draw, that's 2 points, isn't it? Because they're not going to slip up much, and they're not going to have games. They're going to have a lot of games where they just win. This is a game where there's a chance of you earning a couple of points. So it's so.
We almost had it. It was like the 95th minute.
I know.
It's like a dagger to the heart. But Haaland, I mean, what a guy! Literally, come on, and he changed the game, obviously, offside. The offside, I wasn't sure. I don't think it was offside. No. I don't know.
I didn't. From what I saw of it, I really didn't think it was.
I think it's one of the things you have to look at the ruling because I'm not up to date with the VAR offside ruling now. I always used to think it was your feet and head. It was parts of your body that could
And
play
you could
the
score
football.
with. Yeah.
But they do seem to do lines on bloody arms and all sorts now, and I just don't really. I'm sure the law is it's part of the body that can play the football. So anywhere essentially, other than your arms. But yeah, I really don't know.
I mean, literally, it would be here all day trying to figure out VARs, like, you know, what kind of new rules come in, what stance we're playing. It's just it's getting a little bit silly now, I think, personally.
Yeah, I think. I was
sorry,
just going to quickly say that the offside for me, I don't think it was. I heard a couple comments on it, and like I can't remember who said it, but his hand was offside, but he didn't score with his hand. If his body part was offside, or the majority of his body was offside, or something like that, then I could understand it. But his hand being offside, that doesn't gain the advantage for me.
No.
Having your hand offside or your toenail offside.
I mean, is the rule still the body parts? I'd like to look at that. That's what I'm saying. Am I missing something? Has something changed? Because that's
I would be interested to read into it and see what actually the sort of VAR is. But also something that I don't think got VAR was the challenge on Rodri from Pereira. Now, a couple of weeks ago, the Tottenham challenge that we spoke about, Joe. Got who was it? Was it Emerson or Doherty? It was Emerson, wasn't it?
It wasn't Doherty, so yeah.
Because it was against Arsenal and it was on Martinelli, I believe. He got a straight red for stamping on his ankle.
Yeah.
Pereira's
looked worse than that, and he got a yellow. And
do you know what? I think they're both yellows, and I think Pereira's is worse. I mean, if the other one's a red, that's definitely a red. But there's no consistency, and you're always going to get that when they've got a VAR panel, which is full of different people each week for each game. Well, not each week. I know they do it as a full-time job. One point I wanted to make here, and it's a bit controversial, but I actually believe this. I think City could potentially finish top 4 playing with 10 men every week.
No, but you know
I know that sounds ridiculous, right?
No, you've got a point. You've got a point, actually. I think
it's credit to City, and I don't like giving any credit to City, but they dominate. They still had 70% of the ball with 10 men. Like it's not just carving chances out. They still absolutely dominate. They're just.
But sometimes it's hard. They say sometimes it's harder playing with like 10 men because actually, in terms of formation, I think some people struggle with. But I think Chelsea, I mean, to give them credit now because later on they're not going to get any. But like Chelsea with Hazard used to be able to grind out results with 10 men. That's one thing I always used to annoy me about Hazard. But generally, I think Chelsea, that era of the Chelsea team was all right. So actually, they could actually grind out points similar to City. But you're right, though, Joe. Like City on a whole nother level, though. They're
the best team in the league. I hate to say this, they are the best team in the league. They are. I know they're not top of the league, and the stats don't back it up. I mean, Arsenal are pretty much top on most things. And actually, when we're talking about team chemistry and pretty on the eye, Arsenal win it all for me. But ultimately, the best team in the league is City. So, and this is a Champions win, really, unfortunately, at the weekend. You've just got to hope they've got a few more games like this, Shell, and they don't get that winning goal. Because everyone used to say, Fergie time and Man United. It's not. The better teams find that way.
Yeah,
and Manchester City have done it the last couple of years when they've needed them last-minute goals. They've popped up.
Yeah, and credit to Fulham as well. Like they held them for a long time. It wasn't easy for City. So to be fair, Fulham did well there.
I think with I've said this week in and week out now. City have this tendency to just lose focus at some points defensively. It gets to a point where City just turn off, and the play that they were able to come away with that managed to win them the penalty. In my opinion, I don't think it was a penalty. It looked like a 50-50 job.
It's a dive all day long. It's an absolute blatant dive. And do you know what? It's exactly what I hate about VAR. Because it doesn't matter what you do. You slow that down, you see the contact, it's a penalty. VAR does not look at real-time situations. It does not look at the impact. The same as when two people are running really fast, an ever so slight touch can really tumble you. That wasn't that scenario. That was a touch, and he completely. I mean, De Bruyne should take swimming lessons because. Or driving lessons. He should be up there with Tom Daly. I don't like to see it. It's nothing against De Bruyne. He's a fabulous footballer, and all players encouraged to do it now. Because if you get touched, I'll slow the screen down. There you go. It's a penalty, and it's getting a bit daft.
For me, the rule has always been with a penalty. You touch the player, it's a penalty. And I think the issue comes with when we talk about consistency and stuff. Outside the box, that's definitely a foul, and that's called, and that's a free kick. But if De Bruyne doesn't go down there, and they lose possession, and he doesn't go down, that's not a penalty.
Yeah,
but the fact he's made contact on the player inside the box.
I don't think the same as you. I do not think all contact is a penalty, and that's where I probably differ to the letter of the law, because. It's a physical sport, and some contact is not enough to and it's not even going to. I've played football loads. You can easily, when you know a leg's coming out, you just run into it.
Yeah,
you can make your own foul. It's so easy, and I just think VAR is giving the advantage to divers.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, okay, fair.
Back in the day. If you notice, a lot of the contentious decisions now, there is contact.
Yeah.
Back in the day, before VAR, I've only just thought this, but it's definitely not in my head. You'd see a lot of challenges where there wasn't contact, but someone's gone over. You're not seeing that now. There's always contact, and that's because the players know themselves. If I keep my leg there, regardless of whether it's coming into me, if there is contact... It's being given by VAR.
Yeah, I think the ref. But then again, the flip side of that is we need the refs to be more accountable when people are diving to give the cards out. Right? I think Saka got one the other. His wasn't a dive, but
I hate when that happens. It's not even a dive.
Like he really did a dive, but whatever. But I think
you know what? I know you shouldn't judge players on like their personality. But Saka's the type of player, I just wouldn't expect him to dive anyway. Like, he's not got it in his locker.
Yeah.
But
then,
should he need to dive for the title later in the year? Shouldn't he be like,
diving full game. But yeah, I think they need to be stronger in terms of giving those cards when players are diving. Just more like consistent with that as well, because I think that doesn't happen near enough. Even though I think it did happen last week, and I think it happened twice to a couple of players. But I do think they need to be consistent with that. Then that will stop that level. It will stop that issue that we have with VAR, like actually just calling everything a foul or a penalty in the box, which is, we don't want that in a game, right? It'll be interesting to see at the end of the season how many penalties were awarded.
I think it will be more than
right?
average. And I know I've only just thought that, but do you agree, Bill and Shell, with regards to there's now contact more often than the penalties where there used to be none, if that makes sense?
I think diving's come a long way, and I think do
you know why? Because players know if they go over and there's no touch, VAR will slow it down. They will not get a penalty because there's no touch.
But the attackers now purposely leave their foot in to get the contact to be able to go down. Like De Bruyne, I think could have actually easily moved out of the way. He could have
just dangling the leg.
Yeah, he just left his feet there, and he got. It is a penalty because he kicked him in the foot. Would he have gone over from the impact? Probably not.
Not yeah.
Would he have got the penalty if he didn't go over? Probably not.
Did they given him lessons?
But he probably wouldn't have. Do you know what? He probably wouldn't have done that if it wasn't so late in the game.
No, I don't think he does. I think
he wouldn't do it like De Bruyne. As much as we insult him, like he's an amazing player, but he's not that kind of diver kind of player. He always plays the ball. So I think it was a tactical.
Yeah, last
100%. It was important.
We do it right. We do it all. So.
It was, and I think you've raised a good point there. That it was important. Like the fact that it was so late on in the game. They were drawing 10 men. I think it was crucial for them.
Yeah, I don't know whether it goes over at 0-0, 5 minutes in, 11v11. Yeah, don't think it goes over.
Anyway, moving on to the next game now. One of the worst games of football I've ever seen in my life. Arsenal 1, Chelsea 0. I'm actually
You timed that just right, Mish.
Just gonna.
So
Sorry, what was that, Phil?
so we have a group chat and we discuss on these group chats what we think of games beforehand. I was very confident going into the Chelsea game, and I'd just like to play these viewers a clip of me. It's a voice recording from our group chat. So, guys, I just want you to give it a listen and see what you think in the comments.
Joe, that's not that hard, is it? I rate it. You know, you're finally coming to your senses and you realise that you're not an Arsenal fan and you're not a Chelsea hater. You just love the game. And that's what I love to hear. And that's what I love to see. I cannot wait to see Michelle's sad little face come Monday when we do our podcast. She is going to be miserable because I tell you what, I've never felt more comfortable and more confident going into a Chelsea v Arsenal game in my life.
Now,
I just know I said nothing when Billy was coming out of all these voice notes. I said nothing because I like to just collect the evidence, let the football do the talking, and look where we are today.
thank you to Napper's mum. Please don't be mean to me. I'm only just a passionate fan of my club.
Jill, you wouldn't be saying that if you heard what Billy was saying in the group chat. There was a lot of chat. A lot of chat.
I told him what way it would go. What way it would go.
Joe,
and he was addressing me. You were addressing me there, Bill, weren't you? When
true.
I said that the Gunners are going to tidy you over.
I felt it was a very much an attack on Chelsea. I did feel like that. But Joe, being the neutral, kick us off with your thoughts of the game, please.
I think it is I don't want to compare it to other Arsenal wins away from home because this one was different. And I'll tell you why. It wasn't so much a counter-attacking, which I've seen in Arsenal's previous wins. I know Michel, as an Arsenal fan, won't necessarily be over the moon necessarily with the performance. Maybe should have tucked a few more away. But the composure. Arsenal are starting to learn when they get in them positions what to do, how to keep composed. I mean, I thought Thomas Partey, to be honest with you, I'm probably not his biggest admirer. However,
well done.
Well, it's not even to now. I watch a player as positioning. I think Partey took a little while to get up to.
Oh yeah.
Maybe Premier League standards, as most players do that come here. Did he come from Spain? Atletico Madrid.
Yeah.
So I mean, Spanish football's not too bad. It is pretty quick as well. I just found that he was in the right place at the right time, which is almost, for me, number one on the list as a CDM. And really played well. I thought he was. I know they give Saliba man the match, but I thought Partey was from watching the game. The ball playing out from the back. Yes, they could have had more goals. Chelsea still look disorganised. I think. I don't think Aubameyang fits anywhere in there. I think you'll eventually have issues with him as well. If I'm honest, Bill, I did say it at the beginning before he joined. Not maybe temperament issues, but he seems to be getting a bit lost in games, and he doesn't look up to speed. I've got to be honest. I thought Chelsea allowed Arsenal to dominate a bit too much. I was expecting a bit more from Chelsea. I really think Potter's got a job on his hands to work out a formation and the personnel to really threaten the big teams, because they just do not look organised enough. Contrary to Arsenal, I'm really impressed with them, because every week I'm seeing different personalities which will mount a title challenge. I do not think they'll win the title, but it's about the build. And if they can increase this squad and keep this same mentality, for me, you're looking at them potentially winning the title within the next 3, 4, 5 years. But I would love to see an Arsenal title challenge this year. I would bite my hand off for it.
Michelle, a question has come in for you and you only by Napper's mum. Question for Michelle: is Tony Adams getting your vote on Strictly?
100%. I mean, he's terrible. Let's not lie, but of course he is. Arsenal legend. And
Pompey legend.
Yeah, that's a good point. There we go. He's getting both of our votes, Jill. Don't worry. Don't you worry.
I'll get my vote.
But actually, speaking about that, I mean, I'd always, just as a side note, I'd always support any ex-Arsenal player, depending on how they leave. So, like Tony Adams, what a legend. Aubameyang, maybe not so much. I feel like that BT Sport did him dirty.
Yeah, but they did him dirty. Yeah,
that was out of order. That was slightly out of order, but
it's good for the game. It's good for the game, and he'd done it. And to be honest, he probably had no choice in doing it. He clearly didn't, because I think he would have said different stuff. He's not that daft. And I think this is where football and advertisement, people take everything literal. So they would have seen that. They'd have been like, Obama what? Obama who? Obama's going to get knocked out. No. They would have really, fans would have really hated on Auba for that. But actually, I think that's a bit harsh. He's doing a promo video. They're telling him what to say. And yeah, I think they've done him dirty on that.
They did, yeah, they did do a day, actually, to be fair. And to be fair, I don't think anyone took it that seriously, because I think everyone was trying to talk. That was a big talk.
Well, I see a few videos of people raging about it.
Really? But I mean, he didn't do anything.
People take everything on face value. And what you got to understand, especially with promotion, there is so much that you're not in control of as the player.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I work in advertising. I know.
I'll tell you a pinch of salt, but I think he probably felt even worse when they were all celebrating, running.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I think actually, didn't Gabriel tweet about nothing personal? Nothing personal. London is red. So it's all bants, I think. But he didn't do anything all game, because to be fair, it could have gone one or two ways. And actually, one of Billy's many voice notes, he was just like, he reckons Aubameyang will score a couple of goals. Which, do you know what? If I don't know, I think you're right in terms of I don't know where his head's at. Like, there's definitely, Joe has mentioned, obviously, he just doesn't seem to fit in. And I mean, as much as I'm an Arsenal fan. When he was in the club, I loved him. I saw his first game against Everton. Great guy, was great charisma as well on and off the pitch. And actually, you see the team actually do miss him. He had character, but there's definitely something going on there. And I don't know whether it's formation. Obviously, Potter, I don't think he knows what his starting 11 is, which I want Bill to touch on soon, because I think that's part of the problem.
I don't think that's his fault. He's come in. Chelsea are they didn't know where their best starting 11 was before Tuchel left. So he's going to have to get his head around it quick.
Well, this is the thing, because this is his what? I don't know.
12?
Is it 12?
No, I'm talking game in general.
Sorry, fine.
12, maybe 10, 11 games, I think.
You'd start to think he's got some idea, but I don't know. But then again, no one's really performed. No one really showed up in that game. Let's not lie. We talked about it before, Loftus-Cheek. I don't know. I feel like his time surely has to be ending.
He's replaceable, unfortunately.
But this is the thing. I think there's quite a lot of performances that people Cucurella was amazing, and Thiago Silva.
I think he's been good this year. Cucurella and Thiago Silva played really well.
That was it, really. I don't think anyone else in the Chelsea team showed up. And for me personally, go on.
Yeah, I just don't think Auba, it's nothing personal. It just seems a little bit off the pace. And I think when you're going to a club like Chelsea with so many decent players, if you're not, and it may just be fitness, but he is getting on a bit. And to be honest, it wasn't just his attitude at the end of Arsenal. He was off the pace there for quite a long time. And
because he was captain, they kept him on. And that was the problem with Arsenal, right? Because they made a big song and dance about him being captain, they had to keep playing him, even though it wasn't quite working. Because at one point, I was a bit I'd start Lacazette ahead of Aubameyang at the time, even though Lacazette wasn't scoring, but he was kind of holding up the ball. He was quite a good personality on the pitch. But yeah, you're right. I definitely think something is amiss with Aubameyang. I don't know what it is. It's you compare it to the Arsenal team, who are playing with so much joy, so much freedom. I mean, I can't believe the amount of time and space Chelsea gave Arsenal. I was really shocked about that. That was baffling for me, considering it was a London derby. I thought that Chelsea would have been all over them, but all over.
Yeah, a bit manic sort of.
Yeah,
it wasn't like that.
And the crowd, in terms of the silence, I've never heard Stamford Bridge that quiet. I was quiet. If any Chelsea fan comes to me and says the Emirates is a library, Highbury was a library, I'm coming for you. I'll remind you of that game because that game was. I was quite shocked. We can hear all the away fans,
But
but
do you know what that is, Mish? Because that's not been the same previous years, and I think Chelsea got really good fans.
yeah, well,
I think they feel it. They won't admit it, but they feel they're in the presence of. I'm not going to say great. I think that's a bit overstated, but I think they feel the tide turning, and they're not playing Arsenal of last year. They're not playing a game where Arsenal might break and win. Arsenal can win through ability and controlling the game away from home against one of the so-called top four. That is a different Arsenal.
yeah, and I think even because I'll admit we didn't play that well, to be fair, but Joe's right. Like in terms of like that controlling the game, like I mean, this is what we've seen of Arsenal this season so far, which has been amazing. That's been a massive difference. Even Xhaka got into like a little tussle towards the end, but he did get sent off. He kept his cool. So
he's a different man.
I mean, I'm looking at Bill's face and he looks distraught. So
yeah, sorry, Bill. Sorry.
Maybe just
I tried to give my fair analysis. So I'm sorry.
Bill. Share some words while I drink my hot chocolate.
I'm going to start off with the positives of Chelsea. I thought Cucurella did very well to keep Saka as at bay, and I
That's
know
as well as anyone I've seen defend against him. Actually,
I haven't seen another left back put Saka in that sort of position so far this season.
And Saka was frustrated. Like
he frustrated.
He got a yellow card, and that's unlike Saka to react like that, especially after he didn't get a call. So fair.
I think also Thiago Silva shown the greatness that he is. 38 years of age, he's 38 going on 25. He is unreal, and you can
sometimes makes you wonder, Bill, doesn't it? Like looking at other players, he's 38, and you just think, Christ, if you could just bottle up that composure and just knowing where to be and share it out amongst the others.
You're saying that, and then after we talk about Aubameyang losing it as well. It's just very interesting, right? In terms of that.
Yeah,
like different peaks and how people are still going on. But
I find it's probably because they're defenders. It's known that the brain sort of helps a bit more to play it later on at the back up front.
I think he's been very hard. You two have been very harsh on Aubameyang, and I think when you say about he's losing it and all this sort of stuff, he's been actually performing quite well for Chelsea, especially in the Champions League. He did very well against AC Milan, which is a side that you don't just mess around with. They're not exactly an easy side to beat, break down, and score against. So I think for him to pick up goals there, admittedly, he has gone slightly quiet as of recent, but as of very recent. I think Aubameyang's still doing well. I think that he didn't have a great game against Arsenal, but I think that it was down to Potter's tactics, in all honesty. I think it's very difficult when we look at Reece James and Ben Chilwell, both going out, both vital for our 5-back formation. We've lost the likes of Koulibaly, Kante, who's been one of our best players for many years now, as of recent. We've had some big hits on our injuries, and I think that if we had a fully fit squad, I think it definitely would have been a different outcome. I think that with the way we play it out wide and how high our wing backs could have, but it's all if, buts, and coulds and shoulds.
When you say different outcome, you mean a draw, right?
No, I genuinely believe. I think that if Potter played a 5-2-3 or 5-2-2-1, if you will, I think the pressing from the front that we do. Don't get me wrong, Arsenal's phenomenal. The composure they had at the back to play it round, but I also think that our head wasn't in it fully. I don't think half the players knew what they were doing. I'm not sure they knew what roles they were playing, and I think it was difficult to watch. It was a tough pill to swallow. You heard from the voice note how confident I was, and I genuinely believed that we would win. But how Potter set up...
confidence go, Bill? Because in the game, I would say about 15, 18 minute mark, I was like...
When it hit the 15-minute mark, I'd say I was confident going into the game. I saw the lineup. I was still a bit... I don't know about that, but we'll see how it plays out. I like Potter. I back what he does, his different styles of play. But you win some, you lose some, and it's clear to see he got it wrong that game. It's a tough one. I absolutely hate this, but I'll take it on the chin and we'll move on to next week. Chelsea, I just have to quickly highlight, have lost 3 years or 3 seasons in a row at Stamford Bridge to Arsenal now,
Yeah,
consecutively. So
Mhm.
that is 3 years in a row where Chelsea have lost to Arsenal at Stamford Bridge. That's not good enough. We've also, the first time in just over 2 years, I think it is now, that we've lost back-to-back Premier League games in 2 years. I understand and I accept that it's a project, and I'm willing to back it. I'm willing to lose the games, drop down to 6th, not potentially get into the quarterfinals or round of 16 of the Champions League, drop into Europa, gain our players, gain the players we want, gain the attraction. Potter then has his set mind, his set tactics, and go again. But I don't think Bowley, and I really don't think the fans will let that happen. A lot of Chelsea fans are
I'll
very...
back Potter as well. I do think Potter will do a good job, and it's interesting because Woody. I don't want to go back to Aubameyang, but it's quite clear to me that you're missing that number 9. Would he have signed Aubameyang? I don't think he would have.
No.
If Auba gets to the end of the season and he's only got a couple of goals, Bill, they will replace him. There is absolutely no doubt about
100%,
it.
no, I agree.
It's difficult because I feel for Potter because he hasn't got a striker, really, not one that he's endorsed, let's say. So I think it's going to be difficult, but I am on the Potter wagon, and I do think he will turn Chelsea into a style, but I was expecting a little bit more progress by now, if I'm honest.
Yeah, he just doesn't know. I think Michelle touched upon it, and you, Joe. He just doesn't know the starting 11. He seems to be playing players. I want to say Loftus-Cheek should just get gone. I've loved Loftus-Cheek for many years. I believe he went out on loan for a while as well, but I've actually liked him. He was young, hungry, broke into the first team. He was exciting, big, strong, but still played out wide, which was quite impressive. But over the years with injuries, he's just not good enough anymore. And it's sad to see, but we've got the likes of Kovacic and Gallagher who came on, and they had some real attacking prowess.
Yeah, Gallagher did well when he came on, actually, to be fair.
And I just don't think Loftus-Cheek is it. You've got the likes of Zakaria, who literally scored against Dynamo Zagreb like last week. So why are we not playing him? Why are we not at least bringing him off the bench? Because he's clearly proven that he's here to stay. Obviously, he's on loan, but he's here to make a point at Chelsea that he can still play football. But rant over. We do need to get on to the next game. I know Michelle wants to stay on this forever. But
I was going to think about Saliba, but it's fine. We can move on. He got man of the match. It's fine.
We can touch on Saliba quickly. I have been a hater of Saliba in the sense of how much he's been hyped. I don't like. He's young. I wasn't a fan of how hyped he was. He's one of the best young centre backs in the world. All of this sort of stuff. Watching how he's getting into it now, I think that he's a phenomenal centre back. I just can't. I can't accept it in my heart of hearts yet.
That's good. That's what Michelle wants to hear.
Don't worry. I'm going to give you like 6 months. 6 months.
Saliba, if you're watching, I think that's him saying you're
all right.
Yeah.
You're good. Now, swiftly moving on. I'm done with this, please. Aston Villa 3, Man United 1. This, I'm happy. We can all agree this is happy. Please.
This was beautiful. I mean, I had to even give Unai Emery. I had to give him props for that as well. Like, what an impact he's made. Like, literally,
I told you.
Do you know, fair? You did actually say it. I don't know. I feel like Man United in the first like 15, 20 minutes looked a hot mess. Like that was frantic. That was like lower. Like, I mean, I say lower league. That's a bit harsh. Obviously, no Pompey fan, but that's like it was like lower league. But no, it was frantic, and I was quite confused. I was like, I don't know what's going on. I didn't know what was going on, but props to Aston Villa. Like, they've come flying out the blocks. Like, I think some people talked about before. Like, sometimes when you get a new manager, people get a new lease of life. I feel like they massively did. It was a great game to watch. Let me not lie. I'm very happy with that result. Very, very happy.
Yeah, I think I said this last week with Unai Emery. The tactics he was playing with the 4-4-2 out in Spain with Villarreal. I think that if he was at a bigger club, I'd understand. he's managed the likes of PSG. I know it didn't exactly go well with Arsenal, but he's managed there. He managed at Villarreal, which isn't exactly a small club in the La Liga, and he beat Manchester United in the Europa League final. He's a manager. For me, he's just outside them top level managers. You've got the likes of Guardiola, Klopp, you've got Conte, you've got all these managers. I think he's just outside that. And I think Aston Villa isn't a club that does him justice. I genuinely think he should be managing for a top club in Europe.
So I don't know. I feel like and let's not forget of Arsenal as well. Like, he did get us to like a Europa League final. Let's not forget that. I mean, obviously, he lost to you guys, but
who was it against? You lost to?
I don't know. Win some, you lose some. I forget. But I think with Emery, I don't know. I feel like he needs to. He does. I think Villa's a good club. I think it's good for him to build, especially the Premier League. Premier League is quite different to like the Spanish league, the French league. I think it'll be quite a good building block for him. Then I think he can go on to a top 4. I mean, let's not forget Aston Villa could, if they continue like this, they could be like in the top
European football.
Pardon?
It could be in the conversation for European football.
No, definitely. So I think it's a good building block for him personally, because I think it went so horribly wrong at Arsenal. Then Villarreal obviously regained confidence, and I think like with Villa, there's so much to build on in Villa. Actually, he's got some good players there. I think it's a good start for him. Yeah.
Joe, what's your thoughts on this game?
I thought it just showed where United are. No, it's not.
No, I like it. I just love the heart.
So many people get a bit carried away. Yes, United performances have been a bit better. Of late, they seem to have a bit more organisation about them. But talent-wise, until they get the players in that are good enough, you can't. Ten Hag cannot put rabbits out the hat. And for me, he hasn't got enough good players to consistently perform. And I think United are a 6th place club. And anyone who tells me different, that's fine. That's your opinion. But they just haven't got it. If they make top 4 this year, United, I think they have overachieved more than anyone else that makes it.
Newcastle.
I don't think they're much better than them.
No, but I'm saying is, say if Newcastle got top 6 or even top 4, but United got top 4, who would you say was more overachieving? Because I would say Newcastle.
I would say Newcastle, but the difference is when you get money behind the scenes, I've seen as Pompey, it works the opposite when you haven't got money. It can really galvanise a squad. You know higher wages are coming if you play well. You know better players are coming. There's a good feel around the club. The crowd are with you again. So it's sort of easier to play in that atmosphere, and you can play a couple of levels above yourself.
Yeah.
But it's the opposite when you're Manchester United, because when you're not good enough, you will stick out like, I was going to say it's all fun, but Scott McTominay or Fred or
Maguire.
And that is the problem. They have got too many players that are good players, but they are not. They're not top 4 players.
Yeah,
they're not even top 4 players. I'm sorry, they're just outside of that. On the other hand, my analysis of Villa over the last couple of weeks since Gerrard got the sack is Gerrard watching his management of Rangers, having a look at him on how he sets his teams up.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's fallen into a trap of over-managing the side. And I think it can happen when you're a player that has a massive expectation, because people know that you know football. People are not going to debate whether Gerrard knows how to set up a team, manage, get results. It almost looks like Villa have got the shackles off now. No one's done anything miraculous. He's starting with the same team Gerrard started with, and this is the same over the last couple of weeks. It's almost like someone has took the handcuffs off and said, look, I'm new here, so I haven't got time to organise. I know roughly what the best team is. Go and play football, and we can have a conversation after. I don't think Unai Emery's necessarily even potentially started his work. He has took the shackles off. And I think if Gerrard's going to be successful in a managerial career, he has to potentially learn how to not over manager side. And I don't know if he has, but that's what I see. And that is my analysis of unshackled Villa and average United.
Yeah,
And actually, go on. There you go. I was just going to say Martinez. I just have to give him a little bit of props. Like, obviously, he's an ex-Arsenal. But what I noticed in this game is he plays based on confidence. Like, when he's playing well, he plays well. And actually, when he's not feeling that confident, like, it goes out the window. But I think watching that game, because he was pumped, like, after those 2 goals, he was literally like...
I think Arsenal would have kept him if they'd known he had this in his locker. He just never really got the opportunity, so he never saw it. I think so many Arsenal fans...
We did see it.
When he first went and he had that first season at Villa, so many Arsenal fans, I'll see so many posts saying, we shouldn't have got rid of him, we should have got rid of him.
Yeah, we wouldn't have. But I think again, it was like the manager's like the loyalty to Leno. That was the problem. Obviously, then we sold him. So it's a bit like, come on. But I think it was that... there was obviously an agreement that he was the number one, right? And obviously he got injured, came back into default. But I think it's that loyalty to players. A bit like when I was saying that Aubameyang was playing and starting because of the fact that he was captain. It's loyalty. That loyalty that creeps in every so often. So hence why sometimes actually you do need quite a ruthless, like an Arteta, to be quite ruthless and just be like, look, this, like, you're not, like, you're going to be benched. Like, we're going to sub you on. A bit, you do need that kind of character because there is that loyalty, which I think, obviously, this is why we lost Martinez, but he's doing really well at Villa. But I think he does definitely play, but I don't know if that's a good thing. He plays off of confidence a bit, and it's too noticeable.
It's not always good. Yeah, it's not always good.
It's a bit like, oh gosh, you need someone, because I think it was captain, wasn't he? Yes. So, like, you need someone to always be like positive driving the team. And if their confidence is shot, then the whole team's will be. So it's a good thing when he's on good form, but outside of that, I'd worry that he plays so much on the confidence.
Can I just say as well, any United fans in here, if there are any United fans, I'm not against United at all. And I would like to say United's Martinez is the one signing you've made that is good enough. He is good enough, and he is levels above others that you've signed.
I think one of the reasons why he is playing so well is a lot of people hated him before he even played. And I think when you have a level of expectancy with a player, oh, he's small, he's not going to win headers. You don't expect him to win headers. So when he does, we're like, oh, hold on a minute, he can win headers. And then what his average playing is, not saying he's average, but like for what he plays, his average of playing, we're already expecting something a lot lower than what he's already capable of. So I think it all depends on expectations as well. I think with Anthony, you got this skillful winger who was doing bits, so they expected something phenomenal. He's not exactly doing that. He does a few fidgets.
He's been average, but you know, before start turning around in circles, beating yourself, you know, at least get some sort of reputation of being able to beat players consistently. So
and that's what I think it is as well. I think it is expectancy or what people are expecting before they've even joined the club.
Exactly.
I come across a bit Roy Keane-ish in my analysis sometimes. Am I a bit harsh?
No. It was just I just enjoyed that shade, like, you know, being himself. I was like, that's shady, but very true. But you know, it's not Roy Keane, it's just Joe S.
Joe S.
And I do want to say as well, what it comes across as, it's almost like a 4-2. It's a 4-4-2, but they transition into a 4-3-3 almost. They have the two strikers. What they had at Villarreal was they had Danjuma up front, and who did they have? They had another striker. That right striker was the main striker, and Danjuma would drift left. Their right midfielder would push up, and their left midfielder would drop into the middle. And we can see that with Aston Villa as well. You've got Leon Bailey, who made a phenomenal run and scored a goal pretty early on, I believe.
Yeah.
It all came from that right mid position, because then it all transitioned to a 4-3-3. He was able to cut in and he managed to get a shot. So I think when I was saying Unai Emery's tactics going into the Villa dressing room, I think it was destined. I think the tactics he's got with the players at Villa, I think it was a dream made in heaven. And I think that they genuinely could potentially go a long way, even push for Europe. We know what Unai Emery's presence is like in Europe, especially for Europa League. And I could see Aston Villa pushing Europa League.
I think the only Europe they'll get is if they get a £39 flight with Ryanair. I can't see them going to Europe at all.
No?
I can't see it because the shackles will be off for a while, but he'll need to then start managing. I really can't see it.
I think flights on Ryanair's gone up though, cost of living and all that. So might be like
It's £41 now. I checked to see if the watch would let me away for a couple of days. But
Cod Vlogs has come in. Hello, mate. How you doing? Martinez looks better for who's around him. I presume that's meant to say. Good player, but needs a lot of work. Also, Gerrard for me is tactically not good enough, in my opinion. I do want to quickly touch upon this comment with Steven Gerrard. Wayne Rooney, when he got the Derby job, actually called up Steven Gerrard and asked for advice and asked for actual managerial. So for a player to go into managing and to look for Steven Gerrard, even when he's not a player, people are still looking up to him and looking for advice, even when he's early in it as well.
And this is what I mean. I think tactically he was too rigid. Because the problem you've got is when you go to a team like Villa, your first goal straight away is to not be in a relegation battle. And I think it's so difficult, especially in Gerrard's situation. I just think he might have over-tactically engineered them. I mean, it's a strange opinion and it's mine. So I sort of I agree with Ben from Cod Vlogs. Shout out to Ben, by the way. Thanks for joining. But yes, tactically, he wasn't good enough. But I think that's just because there was probably a little bit too much on it for him.
And what about the Martinez comment about the players being, he's playing good with the players around him sort of comment?
What, for United?
I presume he means...
I imagine he's going on about Martinez for United. I'd have to disagree on the basis that the players he's got around him are rubbish.
Yeah. It's fair.
Lindelof, never been good enough. He's almost a fourth or fifth choice centre-back. Maguire looked better when he went up front the other week. You know, he's having a bit of a Trent Alexander sort of year or so where they just can't seem to really get even a game where they're not liable for something ridiculous. I watched Maguire the other week. We spoke about it last week. They might have won 1-0, but he was turned more times than... Oh, be careful what the analysis I want to say there. Oh, Christ, I'm not going to say that. But, you know, I don't think there's much talent around him. Malacia, the young lad, looked all right. Shaw's always Shaw.
That's what Cod Vlogs means. He
looks good. Yeah, he looks good. Yeah, okay. If that's how Ben meant it, then I agree. He probably is being on a pedestal a little. Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's along with my philosophy. I agree.
Right. Now we've got that out of the way. A game that me and Michelle can love as well. Liverpool 2, Tottenham 1. I quickly just want to say what I thought of the game. Salah coming into form now. He looks like he's drifted. He's actually free roaming a bit now. He's drifting more central like he was doing before. Trent, for me, still a bit of an iffy game. I didn't exactly think he was good. I thought Alisson looked really shaky. He didn't look confident coming out or being the sweeper that normally he is. He
almost got caught by Kane, didn't he? He almost got caught by Kane at one point.
Yeah.
And Perisic a couple times. But I think, Alisson looked a bit ropey. The attack of Liverpool, I thought, actually did all right. I think Darwin Núñez, I think he's actually coming into some sort of form now. I think that he's actually looking like a good sort of player. Like I actually... Am I excited to see Darwin Núñez? Not really. I think he's a sort of above average player. I don't think he was anything special. I think he had a good season at, where was it, Benfica or Porto? It was a Portuguese team. Mm-hmm. He had a good season and that was about it. I don't think that he's going to be anything special, not from what Liverpool think anyway. From a Tottenham's perspective, again, just boring, awful. I think they are awful. I can't stand Tottenham. And the fact that they think that they're this almighty club when I can't. I'm really questioning Conte because I don't think it's actually the manager's issue now, because Conte, for me, is a manager that comes in and gets the job done. He came into Chelsea, who finished 10th. Next season, we won the league. He went to Juventus, who were 4th. He got them to win the league. He did the same with, I believe, Juventus as well again. But he's one of them
He's
impact
the clubs
managers.
that have won stuff.
He comes
Tottenham
in.
couldn't win a
with
raffle.
an
They bought the whole book.
No, but my point being, Joe, is when he's an impact manager who comes in and does a job and wins stuff. And when a manager like him and his stature and his resume of that, and he's not winning stuff with Tottenham, now you're looking more at the club. Because a lot of people blame Mourinho. A lot of people blamed Nunes and other managers who have come in and have failed.
You can only
To be
do
fair, I
what you
think
can do.
no, but I think with Mourinho, because didn't they get to the FA Cup final? If Mourinho was there, I reckon they could have won that. You know,
Yeah, they sacked him before the final, didn't they?
Yeah,
really strange.
That was their biggest mistake. I mean, I was happy. I was literally just like, you could kiss goodbye to that cup. But I reckon he would have won. He would have won it. He would have won it for them.
Yeah, Spurs.
Yeah, I think you're being deleted off all socials, Bill.
But then, to be fair, I think you're a bit harsh on Conte because he has grinded out some last-minute wins, and they literally everyone's dubbing them the second half Spurs, which is annoying. But it's a fact, though. It's boring, but so is Man United. Like there's a few teams that are quite boring, but Spurs have grinded out those wins. Obviously, they lost yesterday with Liverpool, but the games they've played recently, like they've games that they've come back, draw or won, and they shouldn't have. And I think that's the Conte effect. To be fair,
I mean, this is my analysis of Spurs, right?
Here we go.
I'll walk in the job. No,
I'm getting a drink.
I'll walk in the job tomorrow. Conte sacked, right? They've given me the job. They've listened to this podcast. Spurs are awesome in possession.
Mm-hmm.
Out of possession, they are in the bottom half of the Premier League table. And I think what Conte has seen with the club and the personnel that they've got is that he has to play counter-attack because they don't have the facilities for that, fam. I was just going to say facilities. They don't have the facility to, out of possession, win the. You know how a team can start off as slow as they did in 20 minutes and then produce the second half. It shouldn't really be possible. I would be questioning why my team have got that much left in the tank. So I just think Conte looks at it. I just think Conte looks at his side and he says to himself, "Out of possession, we're not good enough. We're going to play counter attack because if they just play keep ball, it's not like they've got players like City. They haven't got too many progressive players. Their front three are progressive with the ball up the field."
But Joe, the issue comes. Conte's had a transfer window, and who he signed is a 32-year-old.
He's limited because it's known that they've got a limited budget because they have to pay the stadium off.
Yeah, but Bissouma, good signing. I rate that. But Bentancur and Perisic, I like Perisic, but he's getting on a bit now.
Look, these are second fiddle players. You've either got to buy youngish players that can potentially reach elite level, or you've got to buy players that are proven with and are young enough, 27, 28, to have a good couple of years left. You know, Thomas Partey, how old's Partey? 28?
Yeah, late 20s.
Yeah,
that's sort of an example I would give of a signing of someone who's played at a high level and definitely is in their prime that you can pluck. What Tottenham have done because their budget, through no fault of their own, because they've got a lovely new stadium and I understand it. Financially, they've been restricted to what they can build. They've bought players that are either loaned or on the cheap. And so for that, I think Conte's getting the most out of his side. You know, you've got Eric Dyer. You know what I feel about
No,
Eric
please.
I hate him.
Please discuss him, Joe. I just
Dyer.
love how much you despise him.
It's not that I despise it. Do you know what? I think he's a nice geezer. I think he's a good footballer. But at this level, guys, he's played well this season. He should get an England call up. Look, if he's in my back four, mate, I'm shaking the whole 90 minutes.
Yeah.
It's not the shape of his head that caused that header. It is literally, he's got it in the locker. And I think he is a prime example of a player that overachieves for his ability. I do rate him, and I think he's been good this season, but he's got a mistake in him. On the other hand, I am concerned for Liverpool. Really concerned. I still think they'll make fourth.
In terms of
they are so leggy in games come 55, 60 minutes at the moment.
Mm.
I can't tell you what it is. Is it the hangover from the last couple of years of keeping up? I mean, it don't really make sense if it is, but that is the biggest difference, I would say, with Liverpool at the moment. Everyone's talked, and we've talked about the formations. Liverpool look dead.
They look tired,
60 minutes. And I don't know what it is. Is it the training that and the regime they've got at the moment? I don't know. But they certainly look really tired very early on. And if I was Klopp, that would probably be my biggest concern because Tottenham are not good enough to make Liverpool look like they looked in that second half. They're not. So for me, that is a concern. I know Liverpool won the game, but I just don't know what that is. I don't know. What do you two think? I watched the whole game here, and I'm just so surprised. It weren't even that they set back; they were just leggy.
I think with Liverpool, I don't know if it's they've definitely got areas where they need some bulk in. They definitely need like midfield. They've got a young prospect with Harvey Elliott. He's been looking actually really well. One of their best players in this season for me.
He's just underrated, in my opinion,
but I just like players like that. But apart from that, you've got Thiago, who's out injured. You've got other players like James Milner. He should have packed up his bag and moved to Hawaii 2 years ago.
There's a lot of aging people there, isn't there, and in injuries.
Yeah. And I just think I don't think they got the legs for it. And I also think that this is Klopp's biggest weakness, and we're seeing it now again, that he tends to, with Dortmund, he sold his best players to Bayern. And I'm not saying, obviously, he's going to sell all of his best players like Van Dijk.
He sold them or the club sell them? Because I can't imagine he sold his best players, Bill.
Maybe the club sold them. But my point being is there's players that he's lost and he hasn't been able to recover from that. He's very good at bringing players in and boosting them up and making them some of the best players we've seen in the league, right? But how does he cope with losing players? Tell me a time where we've seen Klopp lose a player, like sold them, and they've managed to recover from what's happened. Because I can't think of a Liverpool player that they've gotten rid of from Klopp.
Coutinho. I was going to say Coutinho is
the biggest example. And the difference with Coutinho, he had a transfer budget of 130 million that went straight back in. The only reason, don't let people fool you. And Harvey Elliott, again, I always say this, if you're watching, maybe one of them will watch one evening. It's nothing against Harvey Elliott. He's clearly got ability, and he clearly is a good player, and he could be that standard. But at the moment, he would not be getting the game time if they had money to invest, because they would have invested in that central midfield position and all along that midfield. Because Naby is off the boil. Fabinho is aging and been off for a little bit. Henderson, again, aging. So for me, I feel a bit sorry for Klopp in a sense that the midfield's really exposed, and maybe that's why they look leggy. Because Thiago's not necessarily the biggest mover. He's a person that thrives in possession of the football. He doesn't get around the pitch. He's not very mobile.
You got to think about the players who were leggy, like Henderson and Milner. They got about the whole pitch. Like they were workhorses for Klopp.
And I don't think they're covering as much.
I think with Henderson being on that right side with Trent, for instance, Trent was able to push up because Henderson would cover in. Henderson and Trent have this relationship almost like Beckham and Neville, in the sense they always knew what each other were doing. They were in cohesion together. And with Henderson now being leggy and just not getting about as much, he hasn't been able. And I think that's why Trent has been caught out so many times, because he's still expecting the players to cover him, but they're just not. They haven't got the legs.
With their centre-backs, I don't see why Klopp doesn't consider a 3-5-2. And I'm not even talking wing-backs. I'm talking 3 centre-backs. Because, and again, I think it's probably because they haven't got 3 centre-backs.
Yeah. Because they haven't got...
if you were to put Van Dijk, Konate, and Gomez, let's say, as a 3, and you had Robertson and Trent as attacking wingers, in my opinion, you'd take the defensive responsibility a little bit off Trent, albeit he would still have it. You'd have 3 solid, and you'd have more energy in that midfield naturally because then wide players are very energetic and can get in field a bit. I think the problem they've got at the moment is they're playing a back 4, and if you're relying on that 4 in midfield, like having a bit of an engine, and like I say, I've not seen Liverpool for about 5 years look this leggy, this early in games. So that's my biggest concern.
Even Robertson as well. Like you say, Robertson at left wing back. Tsimikas has been playing over him.
Well, I think Robertson's been Liverpool's best player.
Yeah, he looked good. He looked good yesterday, actually, Robertson.
He did, but as of recent times, Robertson has been getting left out or been subbed off, and he isn't exactly that workhorse he was a couple seasons ago. He wasn't chasing down the goalkeeper from a pass back or whatever. He wasn't hunting and running constantly. So I don't know if it's the legs. Michelle, what's your thoughts on Liverpool?
Yeah, I do agree. I do think it's the legs, and I think it might be a slight hangover from previous seasons. But as well, like Liverpool for a couple of seasons haven't been in a position where they go like a goal down quite early on. I think that they've always been on the back foot. Like this season, and obviously with Salah being not on form, I think they've always started games a little bit apprehensive, a little bit on the back foot, and actually other teams are just coming with a lot of more energy in terms of like knowing they can win the game. And I think that's had an impact on them as well. So they're almost chasing the game from the off. So that
people are coming with more confidence, aren't they? They're thinking, look, these guys, we can get something. And actually, yeah, you're probably right, Michelle. That doesn't help, does it?
No, not at all. And I think that's why they're probably chasing the game a lot more. Hence why the tiredness sets in. Because I think we said it a couple of weeks ago that they just look tired. And we said that from the start of the season.
Along with their confidence, they must be going into games as well, thinking, oh, Christ, we concede. I don't know if we're going to be able to get out with something here. And they are conceding regularly, really.
Exactly. More so than they have previously.
And I mean, I think they were lucky to win this 2-1. It could have easily been 2-1.
I was going to say, it looked at one point that was going to be a draw. Like if it was an extra 10 minutes, I reckon they probably would.
Oh, they would have scored. The goal was coming.
100%.
I mean, it looked like they were going to score though more. Like it wasn't even going to look like it was. If they scored their chances, and I think I wanted to say this with Arsenal as well. If they score their chances, they can be actually 10 times deadlier. Like for the Chelsea game, quickly going back to it, we had a couple chances where we could have scored. If we scored that, the whole stadium would have changed and our players' attitudes would have changed completely. And it's all because Arsenal weren't clinical enough. And I think, obviously, with not being clinical enough comes, and I think that's the difference between City and Arsenal to that next level.
Just at the clinical level. And but you did feel it in the stadium at Spurs when Kulusevski come on. My God, did he change the game?
Yeah.
And you've got Lucas Moura, who just, okay, he had his night in the Tottenham shirt. He won't have another night. His night was against Ajax in the Champions League. Other than that, he doesn't suit the Premier League. He's not up to the standard. Kulusevski comes on, and within minutes, he's running at defenders. He's playing balls. So they're a bit unlucky with their injuries, Tottenham. But Kulusevski, for me, made the biggest difference. He looked so dangerous, and Liverpool just couldn't defend against him.
Yeah.
Really couldn't.
He was very good. Moving on to the final point of the night is Ralph Hasenhüttl being sacked. Now, Joe, as a Portsmouth fan, you're probably really happy. You hate the Saints.
No, I hate to see any, controversy or...
You was not saying that in the group chat. You was not saying, don't even try it.
I mean... The chap, I think he's got like 157 games for Southampton within the Premier League. I think he won something like 50, early 50s or 47. He had a win percentage of about 32%, which puts you in a relegation battle every year. Yeah. So when you look at his consistent numbers, his problem is Southampton's problem, and that is scoring goals. If there are any Southampton fans on here, yes, I'm a Portsmouth fan, but it's all rivalry. There's no bias towards your club. Your keeper's fantastic, but you've got Armstrong. And you've got, who's the other chap? Who's the other chap up top?
Ings?
No, Ings is Villa.
Ings,
can anyone in the chat tell me the other person up top?
In Southampton?
Let me double check.
Whilst you check.
Either way.
Oh, Ings, not Ings. Who did I say first of all?
I can't even remember now.
You got Armstrong and the other chap I just said.
For
Che
Southampton.
Adams. Che Adams. Thanks, Jackie. See, I can always rely on Jackie.
Southampton had Theo Walcott up front on the lineup against
Yeah, but
Newcastle.
I'm talking about potential in terms of people that have been playing this season.
Consistently, yeah.
They're both sort of what I call, and no disrespect to either of them, they're what I call 1 in 5, 1 in 6 people. They'll be good in the Championship, but at Premier League level, and I looked at Ralph's stats, and in the 157 games they played, they scored something like 180 goals, which is barely above 1 a game. And to be fair, they didn't concede many. They only conceded like 250, which for a team that is lower in the league, that's not too bad. So scoring goals is going to be Southampton's problem, and that's why I've predicted them going down. I don't think Ralph could have done a lot. He signed a lot of kids, young people coming into the Premier League. And as we all know, I don't want to sound like Alan Hansen, but kids can really struggle. And I don't see where the goals are coming from Southampton this year. They're definitely not the worst team in the league. I think Bournemouth, Forest, I think there's clubs that's worse than them. But I see them teams as having more people that can score goals. And if you can't score goals, you're going down. So I think Ralph being sacked is the least of a Southampton fans worry at the moment.
Yeah. It is a shame, though. I mean, he had a good stint, 4 years. I think,
in Premier League, that's like ancient.
I was going to say, we need to give him props. He survived. I mean, I think it's quite sad. It's a cycle of managers, right? It's the cycle's getting shorter and shorter for certain teams, and you're just actually Southampton, who they're going to get in. They're probably, as you said, Joe. I think with him getting sacked, I think they will probably go down because they have to then rebuild, and it's just that cycle. I think with the Premier League where it is now, I don't know how quickly they can do it. So
I look through their team. I don't know who's going to score. Shall
yeah,
Ward-Prowse will get the odd free kick and the odd assist and goal, but you just don't see any goals in their side.
Napa's mom saying another outstanding chat tonight. Everyone loved it. Keep up the amazing work and night, everyone. Night, Napa's mum.
Thanks,
great
Jill.
in the chat again, as always.
Right, Jill. We love Jill.
We do love Jill, especially because she loves me more than you two. So,
that's the only issue with Jill, to be fair.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest issues. But I just want to quickly add with Hasenhüttl, the fact that every season we were saying Southampton are going down. Every season we were saying Southampton's getting sacked. He's probably relieved at the amount of stress that he's been under for the past 4 years. Expected and being told you're getting sacked every season. Being told you're going to get your team relegated every season. And respect to the fact that he managed to keep them up every season that he's been with them.
If they get relegated this year and Pompey get promoted, I will dance on this chat with my top off. I mean, not some exotic dancing, just a fan. That would be amazing. There's chances, right? There's chances.
It could happen.
I mean, we're looking a bit shaky actually. League One at the moment. We've won 1 game in 7, I think. But there's also chances of us being promoted. That would be amazing. Sorry to bring Paul into it, but it's genuinely cool.
No, of course. Why not? Wearing a
After
shirt.
Joe talking about dancing with his top off, I think we should leave it here for this night.
And you can catch me dancing with my top off on another channel.
South Tampa Sports have put a comment. Hello from Tampa, Florida. Brilliant job. Really enjoyed it. Thank you for coming on.
Hopefully I'll be here next Monday. Like and subscribe. Really appreciate it,
guys. It's been a pleasure as always. Not been the best for Chelsea for the weekend, but we move and we go into next week. Cheers, guys.